Good afternoon. We are live at the Dover Public Library, and we are going to be discussing some of Maya Angelou's work, partially in celebration of National Women's History Month, but also because Maya Angelou is such a prominent figure in modern African American poetry as well as national poetry culture. So to begin with, Maya Angelou is not only a poet, but a storyteller, an activist, and an autobiographer. She was born in Marguerite Johnson, St. Louis, Missouri. She had a broad career as a singer, dancer, actress, composer, and was Hollywood's first female black director. But she became most famous as a writer, editor, essayist, playwright, and poet, which is our topic today. Notably, as a civil rights activist, Maya Angelou worked for Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X. She was also an educator and served as the Reynolds Professor of American Studies at Wake Forest University. By 1975, she had become widely recognized, quote, as a spokesman for all people who are committed to raising the moral standards of living in the United States. So, without further ado, we will jump right in, and we'll start with The Mothering Blackness. The Mothering Blackness by Maya Angelou. She came home running, back to the mothering blackness, deep in the smothering blackness, white tears, icicle gold plains of her face. She came home running. She came down creeping here to the black arms waiting, now to the warm heart waiting. Rim of alien dreams befrosts her rich brown face. She came down creeping. She came home blameless, black yet as Hagar's daughter, tall as was Sheba's daughter. Threats of northern winds die on the desert's face. She came home blameless. That was from Just Give Me a Cool Drink of Water Before I Die, published in 1971. The next one is A Plagued Journey. A Plagued Journey. There is no warning rattle at the door, nor heavy feet to stomp the foyer boards. Safe in the dark prison, I know that light slides over the fingered work of a toothless woman in Pakistan. Happy prints of an invisible time are illuminated. My mouth agape rejects the solid air and lungs hold. The invader takes direction and seeps through the plaster walls. It is at my chamber, entering, the keyhole pushing through the padding of the door. I cannot scream. A bone of fear clogs my throat. It is upon me. It is sunrise, with hope, its arrogant rider. My mind, formerly quiescent in its snug encasement, is strained to look upon their rapturous visages, to let them enter even into me. I am forced, outside myself, to mount the light and ride joined with hope. Through all the bright hours, I cling to the expectation until darkness comes to reclaim me as its own. Hope fades, day is gone, into the irredeemable place, and I am thrown back into the familiar bonds of disconsolation. Gloom crawls around, lapping lasciviously between my toes, at my ankles, and it sucks the strands of my hair. It forgives my heady fling with hope. I am joined again into its greedy arms. That one is from Shaker, Why Don't You Sing, published in 1983, which was a pretty good year. I was born in 1983. This next one is one of the most notable poems, and it's related to an autobiography that is called I Know Now Why the Caged Bird Sings. This is simply called Caged Bird. A free bird leaps on the back of the wind and floats downstream till the current ends, and dips his wing in an orange sun rays, and dares to claim the sky. But a bird that stalks down his narrow cage can seldom see through his bars of rage. His wings are clipped and his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing. The caged bird sings with a fearful trill of things unknown, but longed for still, and his tune is heard on the distant hill, for the caged bird sings of freedom. The free bird thinks of another breeze, and the trade winds soft through the sighing trees, and the fat worms waiting on a dawn-bright lawn, and he names the sky his own. But a caged bird stands on the grave of dreams. His shadow shouts on a nightmare scream. His wings are clipped and his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing. The caged bird sings with a fearful trill of things unknown, but longed for still, and his tune is heard on the distant hill, for the caged bird sings of freedom. And in this one, we can clearly see that her activist voice is really prominent. Growing up and partaking in the civil rights movement as an activist, as a young black woman, to find that voice of freedom and have this beautiful metaphor of the caged bird, like trilling, crying out for freedom. You know, the bird that stalks down his narrow cage can seldom see through his bars of rage. To be so angry at the restrictiveness of American society at that time is totally justifiable, and I think it's something to acknowledge that even today, not just like BIPOC individuals, but also like women in the workplace, women in society still fight to break out of that cage, and they still sing for freedom. Just something interesting to reflect on as we continue. The next one is, I would imagine, one of the most well-known poems by Maya Angelou. Aside from Phenomenal Woman, Still I Rise, I think, is one of the most hopeful pieces that she's known for. And we'll just jump right into it. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still, like dust, I'll rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? 'Cause I walk like I've got oil wells pumping in my living room. Just like moons and like suns, with the certainty of tides, just like hopes springing high, still I'll rise. Did you want to see me broken? Bowed head and lowered eyes, shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries? Does my haughtiness offend you? Don't you take it awful hard, 'cause I laugh like I've got gold mines digging in my own backyard. You may shoot me with your words, you may cut me with your eyes, you may kill me with your hatefulness, but still, like air, I'll rise. Does my sexiness upset you? Does it come as a surprise that I dance like I've got diamonds at the meeting of my thighs? Out of the huts of history's shame, I rise. Up from a past that's rooted in pain, I rise. I'm a black ocean, leaping and wide, welling and swelling I bear in the tide. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear, I rise. Into a daybreak that's wondrously clear, I rise. Bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave, I am the dream and the hope of the slave. I rise, I rise, I rise. And we will close out with a poem that's not too well known, but it's a poem that Tyler Perry had used in one of his movies. I think it was The Diary of an Angry Black Woman. Tyler Perry himself is a I think he's either a Methodist or a Baptist-based producer and screenplay, and he's a wonderful writer and producer. A lot of his work in Hollywood really touches upon just the struggles of racial equality and like socioeconomic disparity in the African American community. And there was a scene that Maya Angelou herself had guest starred in this movie, and she recited her own poem called In and Out of Time. The sun has come, the mist has gone. We see in the distance our long way home. I was always yours to have, you were always mine. We have loved each other in and out of time. When the first stone looked up at the blazing sun, and the first tree struggled up from the forest floor, I had always loved you more. You freed your braids, gave your hair to the breeze. It hummed like a hive of honeybees. I reached in the mass for the sweet honeycomb there. God, how I love your hair. You saw me bludgeoned by circumstance, lost, injured, hurt by chance. I screamed to the heavens, loudly screamed, trying to change our nightmares into dreams. The sun has come, the mist has gone. We see in the distance our long way home. I was always yours to have, you were always mine. We have loved each other in and out, in and out, in and out of time. Since we are live at the Dover Public Library, I would encourage you to check out any books by Maya Angelou. She is not just a poet, but I'm sure that she has an autobiography here. And take advantage of the interlibrary loans. If the Dover Library itself doesn't have it, they will be able to get it for you. And as you well know, there's plenty of resources online that we provide. Every time we do a Global Poetry Society session, we make sure that there's not assigned reading, but like suggested reading to guide the conversation. And what we've been doing also is including video links to each session's poet or group of poets. And to wrap up, I'm going to pull this up really quick. We are going to be working with Arab poets, particularly female Arab poets, and this is going to extend the National Women's History Month back to the global stage, and we're going to be looking at 5 radical female Arab poets that are not usually discussed in American society. So be on the lookout for that. Be on the lookout for notifications in regards to that. And I would say that they are predominantly current poets that live in the Middle East, and they are able to give a harsh, realistic, and current voice to a lot of the struggles of women in Middle Eastern countries, as well as just the aftermath of a lot of poverty and war that they've witnessed growing up there. So in signing off, thank you for watching, and we will see you next round to discuss female Arab poets from around the world.